Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of June 28th.
for a second.
Second.
Anybody have any corrections that they want to offer? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Next item on our agenda is public hearing for Medzek sale. And is anybody here representing
Doug.
project? Doug is? Okay. Is there anything we need to know besides what we know already?
Yep, not yet.
Everything we have on the agenda tonight is going to county and we'll be back Wednesday. We'll have to postpone voting on it until the next time.
So are we going to open this public hearing? Or?
Yeah,
Do we need?
but I want to ask Doug a question. Doug, what is this strip that goes down through the world here from the old golf club? And is this a part of this property?
Part of lot 2. I'm not sure. If
Is this south of the old prop? I just don't know what that, I just was curious about it.
It's a separate parcel.
It's a separate
This is a separate parcel, and this is a separate parcel.
But these folks don't have this down here.
Correct.
Okay, so this is actually their property line, the north part of this line that. This line that-
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a strange, I think it's just there for bearing, for, a bearing to explain the land.
Which raises an interesting question. We've got lot 21, lot 22. So the part that's south, well, I'm assuming it's south, that is not part of lot 22?
South of the old strip. there.
Yes. Is that not
No.
part of 22?
It is
that's a
not.
different lot.
Okay, all right.
Historically, there are locations. It's maybe part of it, it was a trolley line. So that may be a left of the old trolley line. I know when we've gone over Old Oak in the past, looked at drainage issues. Let's folklore, goals, third rail.
Okay.
Well, I'd entertain a motion that we open public hearing.
I'll make a motion to waive
Waive the
the
reading.
reading.
Wait the reading at public hearing.
Yeah.
Second? Valerie seconded. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed and carried. Now.
Now I move
public
we
hearing. Mike opened the public hearing and Kelly seconded. Favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Folks are the
Keller.
galleries. Is anyone? We don't have anyone remotely interested in making any comments.
So we would just say, if there's anybody that's attending remotely that would like to speak on this public hearing, to just raise their hand and then you.
Okay.
And you'll see that up there, but I don't see anyone yet.
I suspect that's about the level of interest in.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Here a second. Made by Rich, second by Mike. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Would you like to do a secret?
Let's do that.
So the questions for short of environmental assessment form: will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations?
No.
Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land?
No.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No.
Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
No.
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No.
Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies or public or private wastewater treatment utilities?
No.
Will the proposed action impair the quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources such as wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? All of the impacts being no or small impact, then this project can have a negative seeker declaration.
And Kelly made the motion, and second by Rich. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is there anything else to be done on this until we go to, I don't think any sign,
Until we get the county back.
I guess until we get the county back. So I guess that will be, next time we'll do that.
Turn to the next one.
Next thing on our agenda is the Route 5 Development Company proposal for the 2 restaurants in 1 building over in Town Center. There's Katie, bar the door.
I'm Kate Johnson. We have a court. I have with me Carly. That's our architect. We also should have Andy Hart and Amy Dake on the virtual tour. So really, last meeting we were here, we had a revised site plan. We did not change the plan again. So it's the same essentially, but we did submit a full set of civil drawings. So everybody should have seen those. And what we thought we'd do tonight is, just go over the site plan and answer your questions if you still have any. And, obviously there's a landscaping plan, there's a lighting plan, et cetera. And then we were hoping to, if we resolve the questions, we could set a date for a public hearing today. So I'm gonna we have this is the site plan. I'm gonna let Andy Hart just start walking through it, but if you already know your questions and you want to cut them off and ask them, that's okay. So, Andy, are you there? I don't see it.
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We're
Hopefully
ready.
everybody- You can hear me? I'm all set.
Yeah.
So since our last meeting, we've made some revisions to the site plan. We've rotated the building 90 degrees, so it's going to be set up as if it's vertically, basically from on the east side of the building. So restaurant A is to the south with restaurant B to the north. Parking is to the west, and the front doors to the 2 restaurants will be facing the west. This new alignment has allowed us to provide more parking. So we have 70 parking spaces now. And it also has allowed us to provide a more efficient mobile pickup and drive-through configuration. So for restaurant A, you can see in the stacking to the bottom, the mobile pickup, there's room for 7 cars so they can pick up their mobile orders from restaurant A. And then the second lane that's just to the south of the lane for restaurant A is for restaurant B. They'll circle around the building, and on the north face of the building, they can pick up their order, order it on the west side as like a typical drive-through, and then circle around to the north and pick up their order there. There's also 2 spaces for pull ahead in case the order is not complete. They can have somebody move forward to allow them to be able to pick up the next order. We still have the tractor trailer entering the site to load the buildings for goods. They'll enter from the western entrance, go down towards the south, circle around that drive-through area, and then over to the far east side of the site. There'll be an area for them to park and unload to the rear of the building. There's 2 doors, 1 door for each restaurant for loading. There's also enclosures, dumpster enclosures for dumpster pads. They're both located on the northeast corner and southeast corner of the site. In terms of landscaping, or let's say for pedestrian connection, first, we do have sidewalks to each of the sidewalks to the north, to the Tops building, and east towards Key Bank. So they can provide pedestrian access to the building.
That's the question. Oh, I just pedestrian access, because one of my questions was like the connection to McDonald's, because it just seems like that might be a more common interaction. You know, you might have a family that's going there, and then some want to eat here, some want to eat there, and I just don't see the like more of a direct connection, and unless they have to go like up to Tops and over and then down, is that
Yeah, the existing,
idea? 'Cause it just seems like it'd be easier to just go across.
the existing route is to go up to Tops, over and then back down. And I believe that's just because otherwise you're passing across a fairly, frequently trafficked entry.
Yeah,
So that keeps them from going through that entry. And so we just kept the same loop there.
yeah, I just feel like people will still cross there. This is the path of least resistance. We'll cross from McDonald's to this,
Yeah.
But there's no cross route.
right, you know what I mean, people will just cross through
Oh,
without a cross,
okay.
if we don't
okay.
provide one.
So your recommendation would be to continue the crosswalk on the south side of the loop. Right?
Yeah, but I don't know what the safest option would be, but I just feel like it might be a common crossing, and I know people's concerns initially were walkability and, between, like, if people want to come as a destination and then walk to different things once they're parked. But some people may, want to go to McDonald's, want to go to these sites. If there's an opportunity to consider it.
Yeah, we can look at it. I am concerned about bringing them across that, particularly the McDonald's intersection.
Yeah.
And is there a way to do it internally as opposed to across?
Yeah, right.
It's possible, it's just, it's not necessarily gonna be,
Maybe in the
in
back
winter.
area, like down closer to Route 5.
I'm having trouble hearing, but are you saying to connect to McDonald's at the south end of the site?
Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
thought is, what is the ideal way to sort of guide pedestrians to McDonald's if they're gonna go there? And what we're providing is a bit, fortuitous to get there, and is there another option? And I'm concerned, as Carly mentioned, crossing McDonald's entrance drive, that's not what you wanna do. Is there a way to bring them internally across? And whether under the middle or the top, is there a safe way to do it? And we should probably just look at that, talk about.
Yeah, the grading of the site kind of doesn't allow us to connect as you head into the site because the grade of the site increases. So there's no good path other than across the front of the driveways.
Well, even making it the pedestrian access and walkways clearer for people to see, to understand. And then my only other question related, to this is I forgot if you said last meeting that there was going to be a stop sign there between, so I'm looking at like the 2 crosswalks, the 2 crosswalks that are vertical on the drawing? The one that connects the corner of the curb of Tops to the.
There's a stop for pedestrian only sign.
So there's a lot that will increase like a lot of just different moving parts there. And
So
like
the
people
one by
coming around the
Tops,
corner.
right, the one by Tops has, it's a two-way, two stops on the north and the east, and then on the west, it's a pedestrian crossing
Right.
stop.
And the reason that's not a full stop is the concern that their cars could back up in front of those driveways. So to keep traffic moving, you want them to stop for pedestrians only, not stop every time. The other two
Are full
entrance points are full stops, as it's currently situated.
Yeah, my instinct would be not to have pedestrians going across the parking lot at McDonald's. I'd be careful about doing that because you've got, I understand what you're saying because people will do that, but to encourage it, I think is a mistake.
Just, you mean to encourage, the one that's there or a new one internally?
No, to encourage people to walk from the new site
Yeah,
into the McDonald's,
okay.
I think is a mistake. Personally, I think it's a mistake. You're going across two parking lots. I'd rather not encourage it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Rich, you're right, because if you think about it, all the people in McDonald's are driving in face first.
Right.
So they're backing out of their parking spaces both ways. We see this at Wegmans all the time.
I know.
It's scary as
I know.
hell, because people are walking, pushing their carts, whatever they're doing, and they're not looking where they're going. And a lot of our contemporaries don't turn their heads when they back up. Those are our contemporaries can't.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to see is like, at that second crosswalk, they're gonna be crossing there across the Tops, walking down past whatever that is, and then coming to the next crosswalk to get to McDonald's.
Along the boundary of the property, there's no fencing there, is there? It's just landscaped and.
Yeah.
So what Rich is, probably there are gonna be people that, you know, if they want to, they'll do it, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of liability of encouraging them, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, well, if you're gonna do it, you have to make it safe. So, you
Yeah.
know, if you're gonna guide somebody or set up pedestrians, you know, that's always the things when you end them in a nowhere and then they're on their own. So, why don't we look at it and see if there's a way to enhance what we have there to make it more clear, so you're not putting them in any danger. Right, like, not, I don't know.
There's a grade, yeah, there's a grade in the difference between the sites, yeah. Yeah. That'll help.
So we'll look at it, see if we can improve upon it or.
Yeah, because I just remember too, like initially when this first came up, a lot of people were commenting about just pedestrian walkability. They'd like to see town center as a whole be more of a walkable site, like you can park somewhere and then your party can go to different destinations and walk to and
I
from.
think the hard part is, if you look at it, there is, when it was designed, you can walk, it's just, it's longer. You know,
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the longer route is, you know, it's safer, but everybody wants to take the shortcut,
Right.
which isn't the safe route. And I'm not sure with the parking that's there, that's.
Yeah.
gonna work.
So even just making the crosswalks maybe even more clear and more visible and more obvious crosswalks.
Mhm.
I think this is a very nice plan.
Like,
Oh, yeah, it's very nice.
Andy, do you want to talk about landscaping or what you're going to next?
I just wanted to mention that we provided, because this site plan encroaches closer towards Genesee Street and requires us to remove some more mature vegetation than we were previously. We've replanted those trees with new trees, and also encouraged new shrub growth, new shrubs as well, below those trees. So we're enhancing the landscaping that's there today, providing a little bit more.
And what about lighting?
Lighting would be consistent with the rest of the plaza. It'd be very similar and almost exact to what we're doing. We did for the bank, for Chase Bank. So there'll be LED lights, and they will be a mounted height of 25 feet.
So it's consistent. Anything else on the site? We do have a building to show you. We do have our traffic engineer if there's questions about that. Anybody?
Kate, are the trees on the south side evergreens or are they deciduous?
We're showing deciduous at the moment. They're crab to match the crabs that we removed.
They're not nice.
So there won't be any screening during the.
That's right.
What'd you say?
There won't be
There
any
won't be any
screening all
screening
year
during the
long,
winter.
yeah. Just have branches.
Yeah, is that something?
Yeah, he's basically selected the same plants that were there, just replacing them.
I'll jump in on a couple things. And the plan I'm looking at is not exactly what we have here. And as far as the trees and screening, I think it's pretty consistent with what's there now. There isn't a lot of screening. I don't necessarily think, just my opinion, I don't necessarily think there needs to be a lot of screening. What concerns me, I can't point to it.
There's a.
You've got, on this lane, you've got a right, I mean, it's out and an in, but yet you're separating 2 lanes of traffic down here. Where does that in and out stop? Because now you got 2 lanes down here.
So once you turn, once you get into the drive-through loop here.
Yeah.
This is single direction. So 2 ways within the parking lot and coming in here.
Is that lower the new car there? I'm gonna come out and go that way, but yet I'm blocking somebody coming in, driving. What I'm saying.
If the blue car backs out and goes out that, do you
Yeah.
think they're blocking it?
Talking about this last one right here.
Well, those 2 red ones are the blue on the other side. I mean, it's, as you said, it's an operational issue. You guys will figure it out as time goes on, but I can see how it can get confusing.
Right, and these folks can back up this way and go out here, or they can go up there, so.
I think signage is gonna be important too.
Signs are being.
Yeah, there'll be signage right at the entry here.
And I know we talked about some pedestrian traffic walking back and forth. I think that's dangerous. You don't want that liability. It's not my project, but I would be very concerned about liability.
Any other site issues? Concerns, questions?
I've never seen anything like this, and I'm really interested to see how it works when it's built.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of different things that we have here where the dumpsters are, where the loading area is, where you have the drive-throughs coming through. It's gonna be, I don't know. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, I think the difference too is like, we're thinking of McDonald's and Chick-fil-A being together in one thing, and with these tenants, I know I haven't said who they are, but you know, you have a pickup window, which is really not gonna have the constant, you know, I go there, and I get mine at this time, as opposed to I'm waiting in line for, you know, and you have the constant traffic, so I think it's gonna be less intense than a McDonald's and and the you know, the other tenant, how fast they're putting out food isn't the same as a McDonald's, you know, it's a slower operation. So I don't think it's gonna, and we counted the traffic at these other same tenants in Rochester area, and you know, we were really only seeing 3 cars at most in line at the pickup window ever for the smaller tenant. So I think, you know, It will be interesting, I agree, but I don't think it's gonna be as crazy as it sounds. And there is one that had different tenants though, where with the dual drive-through, that we did provide that information. I think it's not till in Rochester.
It was outside of Rochester.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gave us that.
I did, it was in the
It was
prior.
a little bit different design, because I don't think
It
they had two
wasn't the
drive,
same.
yeah,
But
They did have two drive-throughs, I think.
I had
Fair
it,
Board, right?
but they weren't,
Airport, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. it wasn't the
So
same
it was a
set,
Starbucks and a Chipotle
right?
in Carrington, New York.
They were, it was a smaller building,
It was a smaller building, and I think it had the drive-throughs on either end.
Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
way with the back, it has stuff happening in the back.
I see what you're saying, because like one's just mobile order, so it's not also drive-through. So,
Right, I'm not ordering my food there,
Right.
I'm not, you know.
So that's- there's
so
less
it's a different
idling.
flow, they're not competing as much. So I think that, you know, we've shown
I think we've shown way more
way too many
there.
cars, but we just wanted to show you the number that could fit, it wasn't that that's what it's gonna be like. So, yeah, I think.
way more cars for the mobile order.
Now,
The other ones are gonna come down below that. for the
Right.
Drive-through for the other restaurant.
Are they for breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
One has breakfast and one doesn't.
Okay.
That's one of the questions somebody asked about the traffic now, so the one does have breakfast, but the other wouldn't start till I think 11, you know, the lunch time.
And they have
And then
dinner.
both would have dinner.
it's interesting, I've never seen it before, it'll probably work. But if it doesn't, what happens? I mean, if there's issues with cars getting lost, and, I mean, where do we go from there?
Well, I do think that the tenants are going, you know, that they know their business and that, you know, they know they've operated. They're not going to get themselves into that situation, but if they do, I think it's an operational, what can we change? You know, can we sign these things differently? Can we, you know, we can adjust it with them. Signage or marking things differently, or, you know, you can move a dumpster, you know,
Okay,
so.
no, I get it.
I know.
And
I
we do
know Rich-
involve them through this whole process.
I know Rich said that he's not as concerned about the screening, but I just wondered what everybody else thought, because, and I have less experience with providing with the screening issue, but this is a building that's gonna have, as opposed to the McDonald's or the banks, it is a building that's gonna be along East Genesee Street with the traffic, and you can see the dumpster area, and they'll have the tractor trailers loading and unloading, like right along East Genesee. So I don't know if we would like more screening to kind of
I would think.
cover that from the road.
That it's gonna blend in very well, because what you're seeing when you're coming east to west on Genesee Street is the town center and the buildings, and they're attractive, and this building will be attractive, so I can't see it as a problem, and there's no looking at it head on from your car, you know, it's a passing.
Right, you're not facing it.
Right.
You know, and that's a valid point, you know, when you look at it from these views, you're really seeing the buildings sticking up there, you know, which is so much bigger than obviously where the ordering is taking place. I also feel like, you know, the stacking, the majority of the stacking is gonna be facing Key Bank. As well as the ordering and the truck sitting there, so hopefully that's, you know, Key Bank's got their drive-through there too, so it kind of matches those two up.
Yeah, I think turning the building like you did makes a big difference from the screening standpoint.
Agreed.
You've got a smaller area that you need to screen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, I think the view changes dramatically.
Dramatically, yeah.
I think it's a problem. They do put a couple trees in later anyway, if they needed them, but it doesn't,
Yeah,
it seems okay for now. It's like, what's there now?
right, I think we're trying to replicate what's there, we're adding actually trees to make it, you know, pretty high open parking lot, so.
Well, this is the plan that's been sent to the county.
Yes.
And so we'll hear back from them on Wednesday, and I think we're probably ready to set a date for a public
Okay.
hearing, which we said on our agenda we're going to do
Okay,
tonight.
that sounds great to me.
And I guess, are we ready to have a public hearing next time,
I'll make the motion to have the public hearing.
I'll second it.
next meeting?
Yeah.
Second, Rich, and second by Ann. Any other discussion about that? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. We'll do
Thank
that then.
you. So it's the 26th.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
How long?
We would like to start the site work, depending on if, when we get approvals, as soon as I get a building permit, September. And we'd like to get as much enclosed as we could before the winter, but we do have to have Aqua move the water line. We can't move it for Aqua, so their schedules
Yeah, good luck.
could drag it out a little bit, but the goal is to get it delivered, all our work done, the building up and delivered to the tenants, so for a spring. Yeah. Mhm.
They're gonna put it closer to the road, Route
Now
5?
it's going in, it's going
How do
internal, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and just the way the other lines are, I guess if you move it in, it's the shorter route and they're fine with that, so at least they're preliminary, they're slow.
It's
with-
their,
yeah,
it's their line.
they're fast. All right, thank you very much. We
Okay,
appreciate
we'll
it.
see you next time.
Yep, see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
You're welcome.
And our next thing on our agenda is the initial presentation of property on East Richmond, and I guess the address is East Richmond, 7268 East Richmond Road. You folks, right? Introduce yourself and tell us what you're up to.
I'm Sigmund Keller, also known as Ziggy. It's a little bit easier, less formal. My beautiful wife Michelle, she's here with us. We've been obtaining property on Richmond and the corner right there. I don't know who's familiar with the corner of Richmond and what's the other one? Kendall. When we bought the property, it was a disaster, if you know anything about it. So we've been investing money in it. We intend on building our retirement home on the same property that we're trying to subdivide. When we talked about doing that, we have 5 children. One says, well, I want to live close by, so she bought a house on Kendall. Another one wants that greenhouse that we were going to tear down. So instead of tearing it down, we want to separate it from our property. So any investment put in would allow them to actually have their own asset for future down the road. We're a pretty tight family and currently have some issues going on with my house. We can figure it out ourselves, I'm sure. So we want to have the family as close as possible, and we intend on putting our house up next year. We were going to do it this year, but it's $85,000 more for the wood. So we just decided we're going to wait till next year. We live in Manlius, downtown Manlius. We're on the White City Village, and we're moving from 6 bedrooms to 3. So that's what our intent is, and to allow access to us to have the back of the property where we want to build. I think you guys all have the map. There's a driveway that runs all the way through the property, so we kind of want to separate the front corner to them. It doesn't allow the 16,000 square feet you want, but it's going to be one family on the parcel with 2 sources of income for the town instead of 1. Instead of ripping it down. We just purchased 2 more acres on the opposite side of Richmond. We intended on putting a house up there, but the expense of filling it, not realistic. It would cost us more to fill the land that we just bought than we thought initially, so we kind of regrouping a little bit.
Well, as we probably, Doug has probably discussed with you, there's some problems just with the code and with the size, the setbacks and the size of the 2 lots meeting the requirements of the code. And I don't know what discussions you might have had with Doug prior to this meeting, if any.
You know, we sent you folks an email with some of the concerns.
I think he responded, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Some were
Well,
answered,
I've got,
some weren't.
I think I've got a copy of the response. This was dated, so date on it.
Oh, that's from. Yeah, I think that we had some further discussion at the work session of the extent of the variances that would be required are probably greater even than what was on that sheet. So the lot area coverage is one obviously on lot one, right? So that's significantly quite a bit lower than need be. And what is that number, Doug, offhand?
16,000.
16,000, okay, so road frontage, so you also have a situation where you've got 2 front yards according to our code. So each of, if we talk about lot 1, the road frontage on Kendall is insufficient significantly. So on Richmond, it's okay, but then on lot 2, you've got 2 road frontages, and then your road frontage on lot 2 on Richmond is substantially insufficient as well. The house that is on lot 1 also has a side yard setback situation, so we need a variance on the side yard setback because it's too close, and on the side with the porch. And also there's a front yard setback issue because Richmond's a front yard. So front yard on Richmond is insufficient as well. And on Kendall. Okay, so you need like 3, maybe on lot 1 alone, I think we're up to 6 variances, I think.
On one, I don't think we need variances because it's an existing building that's already there. And
So,
there's nothing that we're changing on it except for how much space it takes up.
But you're subdividing that lot, which means now you have to come in compliance with our
like
code.
if you were to leave it, it would be fine.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
it can stay, it doesn't, by the way, it wouldn't have a side yard setback issue. It wouldn't have the only issues would be your front yard, but it's a pre-existing. But the other 4 variances that I mentioned wouldn't exist. So I think that's, a significant issue. I'm bringing up the issues. I'm not saying how they can be resolved right now, just telling you what they are, right?
It's not personal with me.
No, and it's again, I'm just telling you what the facts are, and then I'll let the board decide how it can, if it should be, if it can be mitigated in some way. No matter what, this board cannot approve this plan the way it is. It has to go to the zoning board. And like I said, on the lot 1 alone, there's 6 variances, and then there would be the variance on lot 2 would be the front yard on Richmond. Minimally.
Yeah, I guess, my question, we talked about this. You could definitely make 2 lots, 16,000 square feet. You could definitely make 2 lots that have 100 feet of frontage on Richmond. You can't do it on Kendall, but you could do it on Richmond. You could also move the lot line so you didn't need a variance for a setback on lot 1 with the deck.
Okay.
And I guess my question is just, why haven't you tried to minimize these variances? So instead of needing 6 or 7, maybe you need 2.
We're just getting started here.
Okay.
We're not really familiar with the process. We have a builder and an architect and everybody else that's on our side, we figured we'd come down and talk ourselves, like, you know, what we're trying to do. I was not aware that there was 6 or 7 variances necessary. Plus, and what we're trying to do is find out what we can and can't do, and then we're probably gonna marry it to that.
Okay. All right, I mean, I can see how you can get 2 lots out of this,
Right,
but not the way it's laid out now
okay,
would be, and I'm just one voice.
that's,
You're intending to keep the house that's at the corner of Kendall and,
yeah, we intend on putting quite an investment into that because it's kind of old and dilapidated. Right now it's on well, right now it's on, septic. And those things would come out, we would immediately put water and sewer in. Just to start, because it's just needed to have a house to invest what we're gonna invest into it.
well, I think that the only thing this board can do is to point out the problem with code. I guess it's not our business to redesign it, but,
No, that's okay.
but that is the problems with that have been pointed out. And for more clarification, we've got to come into the office
Meet with Doug.
and meet with Doug probably. That would be the first thing to do.
Possibly, I mean, again, a lot that goes this way or a lot that goes this way would greatly minimize the variances. And then ultimately, if it comes back to this board and the board's feeling good about it, they can make a recommendation to the ZBA, but the ZBA is their own people. And it has a very specific criterion as to when a variance would be granted. So maybe Doug can,
I'll have
you
my,
can give that as well.
I'll have my architect deal with it because this is up here, I'm just a simple truck driver. Sure, okay. We're using, do you know the name of the architect, honey? Using, what's Dan's last? Dan Tagliamonte is probably gonna be the builder, and our architect is somebody in Liverpool. I just don't know what it is. Not important to me. As long as he can deal with you, he's good.
I think that's a good direction.
Well, that's about all we can do, I think, this evening. And if you come back in with a plan that has, not going to be loaded with variances, well, we probably can make the recommendation or not. Okay. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, is there any other business?
Fred, you can't do this tonight, so I'll do it for you.
And I'll second.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I hear Rich say what I usually say, and Mike say what Rich usually says. So, all in favor, say aye. Gary, have a good week, guys. 2 weeks.
Good.
All right.